All right, picking up from the last part, let's look at some influences of nonverbal. First one is culture. Like I said earlier when we talked about this video, nonverbal communication is ambiguous. Different cultures have different meanings. A thumbs up in the United States is, hey, good job, or whatever. A thumbs up in some other countries may be up yours. If I do an okay in the United States, that means okay. I may have just called you a sphincter muscle between the gluteus maximus area of your body if I was in a different country. So you've got to be very careful. A student made a comment and says, this is like thank you. And I don't know the exact hand motion, but I think it's like this. This is thank you in sign language. But if you're not careful, this, or this, or this are different words for the same thing as the middle finger. So when you think about that way, you've got to be careful about those nonverbals. And of course, culture can have so much impact on this because certain cultures are very, very expressive and certain other cultures are very calm. And it's these things that make difference, and that can influence the nonverbal. And the next one is gender. Of course, gender impacts everything about communication, whether you're masculine or feminine. You speak differently. Women are much more nonverbal than men. Women tend to pick up on the little bits and pieces. The statement, it's not what you said, it's how you said it, typically is coming from a feminine communicator. The same concept is also the ones that say, fine, do whatever you want. Typically a feminine communicator speaking to a masculine communicator. They're much more inclined, females are much inclined to use and pick up on communication, on nonverbals than men. And then let's look at nonverbal confidence. How do you actually build a better confidence? How do you get better at recognizing nonverbals? Well, first thing you can do, if you're really interested, is pick a movie, pretty much any movie, but stay away from sci-fi movies and the ones that are really heavy on special effects because there's like no plot or acting to them to speak of. Pick you a good drama or something, turn the sound off, turn off any closed captions, watch the movie, and see if you can tell what's going on in the movie based solely on the nonverbals. That will help you build and recognize those nonverbal skills. Of course, it's also perception checking, and that's not just for nonverbals, that's for verbals as well. But perception checking with nonverbals is very crucial because, for example, crossing your arms can actually mean I'm closed off, I don't want to talk to someone. It can mean you're cold. It can mean you don't know what to do with your hands. The student made a point that people that stand like this with their hands kind of up underneath them is actually kind of a feel of a hug. So they're kind of pulling into themselves and creating that pressure. So you got to be careful because just because someone does a nonverbal, for example, scratching their nose, you might think they're lying, but they literally may have an itch and it's been there and it's ongoing. It has nothing to do with what they're saying. So yet you've got to watch that and you've got to check and you've got to do perception checking and make sure that what you're perceiving is actually what's going on. And for last and finally, mind your own P's and Q's. Pay attention to your own nonverbals. If you're standing there talking to somebody and you realize that you're pointing your feet over somewhere else because you're wanting to move away, but you really need to have this conversation, you need to be focused, make sure your feet are pointing at that person. Don't reach like me. When I get done with a conversation, even if it's not quite done, I find my car keys in my hand. So be aware of your own nonverbals. Mask your expressions if need be. Try not to be too loud or too soft or too gruff, those kind of things. Keep your nonverbals in check. Make sure that what you're conveying is what you want to convey and become a much better communicator.